Good morning. I hope you're ready to go to church. They can't have church without you. You didn't know that, did you? See, if you don't go, the Holy Ghost can't do everything he wants to do in that service this morning because he might want to use you to encourage somebody, to bless somebody, to help somebody, to teach somebody, to show somebody. You just don't know what the Lord has planned for you today. But if you stay home and don't gather together with your brothers and sisters, you won't know what he might have done if you were there. Remember, we are the ecclesia. I'm going to talk about that a little bit here in a minute. We are the called out ones. And we're not to forsake the assembling of ourselves together, and all the more as we see the day approaching. But God deals corporately in the church through the people who are there. And that is a big part of corporate worship, and one of the reasons we come together is because there are things that will happen in a corporate church service that won't happen in your prayer closet or in your living room or going down the road in a church bus. When the whole church is gathered together, the Holy Ghost can and will do everything that he plans to do inside that church. You see, if you're not there, it can't happen. You don't go to church for yourself. I don't go to church for myself. I go to church, one, because I'm commanded to go, but two, because my brothers and sisters need me, and I need them, especially since the end of the world has fallen on top of us. We need each other very bad, so whatever your excuse, go to church today. If you're too sick to go, you can't go. But if you're sitting there in your pajamas, eating your second waffle and trying to figure out what movie to watch, go put your pants on and go to church. They need you, and you need them. Isaiah chapter 16. We're still talking about the judgment of Moab, but now we're talking about some instructions to Moab. Of course, Moab, as I explained yesterday, had allied themselves with the Babylonians to help destroy Judah. And the Babylonians turn on Moab and will eventually destroy them. In Isaiah's prophecy, he writes about a near thing, but he also writes about a very far thing, as is common with many of these prophecies, and I will explain as we go. We're in chapter 16 of the book of the prophet Isaiah. We're in 16. And this is mainly talking to the women, to the daughters of Zion. He's telling them to help out the refugees who are going to run across the river from Israel, from Judah, to try to escape the invading Chaldean armies. Refugees, we're very familiar with the refugee status. Chapter 16 of Isaiah starts out. Remember yesterday we talked about the judgment of Moab, the destruction of Moab, but a future calling of a remnant of Moab. It says in verse 9 of Isaiah 15 that there would be a remnant of the land. In Jeremiah 48, we talked about it yesterday, which describes these same events, only far future, it says that God will again bring the captivity of Moab. In other words, there are going to be certain descendants of Lot that God is going to reclaim and recall to the kingdom. And there's some more mention of the setting up of that kingdom, but there is a near and far fulfillment in this. So let's look at this in Isaiah chapter 16, verse 1. Isaiah instructs in his burden of Moab, "Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land, from Selah to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughter of Zion." He's talking about Mount Nebo there. And he's also talking about Selah to the wilderness, from the river to the wilderness. Sending the lamb, the lamb represents peace. The lamb in most of these cultures represented a peace offering, as it did in the Jewish religion. But Jesus is the lamb that was slain from the foundation of the world. So the lamb is indicative of a sacrifice. And so you didn't send people empty when you sent refugees. So he said, send a lamb with them as a gift to the people where you come. Send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land, from Selah to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughter Zion, the daughter of Zion. Now, the mount of the daughter of Zion, of course, we would think it's Mount Sinai, or you would think in Judah, it's, of course, Mount Moriah, where Jerusalem was, where the Temple Mount is, all that stuff, the Temple Mount. But he's talking about Moab, and the only mountain that could qualify as the mount of the daughter of Zion would be Nebo. And that's where Moses viewed the promised land before Joshua led the children in, before Moses' death. Now, in verse 2 it says, "For it shall be that as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon." Now, there's going to be war in Moab. I talked about that destruction. They're going to go to the rivers. They're going to go to the waters. The fords, we learn about them. Remember when Joshua was getting ready to invade the land, where they decided they couldn't pass through Moab or the Ammonites because they were the children of Lot, and God didn't want Israel to lay a hand on them. And in verse 11, it says, talking about their journeys in chapter 21 of Numbers, it says, "And they journeyed from Oboth and pitched in Ijah-Abram in the wilderness, which is before Moab, toward the sun rising. From thence they removed and pitched in the valley of Zered. And from thence they removed and pitched on the other side of Arnon." That's the great river there, which is in the wilderness that cometh out of the coast of the Amorites. For Arnon is the border of Moab, between Moab and the Amorites. When they invaded the Israelites, they invaded the Amorites, the land of the Amorites. They took them and fought them. Good morning, Katie. But they didn't fight in Moab. So God is saying through Isaiah, said, "It shall be as a wandering bird cast out of the nest, so the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon." They're going to be wandering around. They're going to come to the fords. They're still going to be in their land. They're going to be on the river. And Proverbs, to remind me of a Proverbs 27. I think about this a lot because I've wandered far from my country. Miss Katie, I'm a long way from my country. Here's a proverb about someone who goes far away from their own country. I'm certainly in a far place now. It says in verse 8 of Proverb 27, it says, "As a bird that wandereth from her nest, so is a man that wandereth from his place." Well, they're going to be like wanderers. It says here that they're like a bird cast out of their nest. The daughters of Zion will be at the fords of Arnon, their border with the Amorites, and which was a part of Canaan on the east side of the river at that time. But they're part of that remnant that it talks about in Isaiah 15. Now look here. Well, look at these instructions. Take counsel. That means that listen to what everybody says. Talk together. Make a plan. Execute judgment. It says, makes that, verse 3, make thy shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday. Hide the outcast and bewray not him that wandereth. Make your shadow like night in the midst of noonday. That means cover up what you're doing. You're going to be hidden. Hide yourself from what's going on so that Nebuchadnezzar's army doesn't destroy you like it destroyed the men and the women who in your cities and didn't run, didn't try to hide. Remember, we're talking about a remnant of mostly women and children here. And it says that they're supposed to be prepared to hide the outcast and don't betray the ones who are wandering around. That's all the refugees, the outcasts. As the Babylonian army presses in, there's going to be refugees from all these different countries. God is speaking specifically of those in Judah who are running away from Nebuchadnezzar's army because Jerusalem is the focal point at this time in this prophecy for Babylon. So what God is saying through Isaiah, when this thing happens, that the women are supposed to go to the river. They're supposed to gather together. They're supposed to hide themselves and be secretive. And make what they're doing is like at nighttime, during the bright of day, during the sunshine, at noonday. And it said to hide those outcasts and don't betray the wanderers. Well, they're going to take care of refugees. They're going to cook. They're going to clean. They're going to feed. They're going to nurse. This remnant will be in the service of the Lord during that time. And as you can see, it's going to cast far into the future. Now, verse 4, it says, let mine outcast. Who are my outcasts? The people of Judah. Those are his outcasts. We have the outcast of Moab. We have the ones that wandereth from the other countries. We have all these refugees. We have the remnant of Moab. But then we have my outcast. Who are my outcast? They are God's people. They are the people of Judah who have run from Jerusalem, who've run from the siege, who've run from the armies of Nebuchadnezzar, trying to live and not die, running away from the war. God says, hide them. Let mine outcast dwell with thee, Moab. In other words, let them cross the river there at Arnon, where you're taking care of all those refugees, you godly women that I've chosen, you good women, you good people of Moab, you daughters of Lot. It may not be a great badge to wear, but God mightily used them then, and he's going to more mightily use them in the future, as we shall see in just a moment. I got a new tie from Dr. Adrian. Seems like all of my ties, with the exception of a few gifts, are dead men's ties. But this was an expensive tie. And it went with the shirt that I had. I did not covet it, but he just gave it to me. So I have a plethora of ties. It's my tie of many colors. Let mine outcast dwell with thee, Moab. Moab, Uncle Abraham took care of you, Lot. Now you need to take care of Uncle Abraham. You see, the children of Abraham, the children of Isaac, the children of Jacob, the children of Israel, and the southern kingdom of Judah when Nebuchadnezzar invaded Judah and sieged and destroyed Jerusalem and took Judah captive. During this time, let mine outcast dwell with thee, Moab. And they did. Be a covert to them from the face of the spoiler. Hide them. Remember, God says, let what you do be like in the shadow of the night, even if it's happening at noonday. Hide the outcast. Betray them not. Bewray them not. Or turn them in. Don't abandon them. Be thou a covert to them. Hide them. Be a covert to them. Hide them under a blanket. A covert. Be a covert to them from the face of the spoiler. Who's the spoiler? King Nebuchadnezzar's army, the army of the Chaldeans. And what's left of the Assyrians. And don't forget those Medes who always choose the right side to be on. They fought with Assyria against their enemies. They fought with Babylon against Assyria. And about about 50 years later, after the fall of Jerusalem, they will fight with the Medes and they'll fight with the Persians against Babylon. Until Alexander came along, the Medes seemed to always be on the right side. Let mine outcast dwell with thee, Moab. Be thou a cover to them from the face of the spoiler. Hide them from Nebuchadnezzar. Now that was the prophecy that was fulfilled between 600 BC and between 590 BC and 585 BC. This was completely fulfilled. For the extortioner is at the end, the spoiler ceaseth, and the oppressors are consumed out of the land. But they weren't then. He skips now from talking to a future place. It says that the extortioner is at an end, but he wasn't yet at an end. And he wasn't at an end at the end of Isaiah's prophecy. And he wasn't at an end at the first coming of Christ, and he's not at an end now. Hadn't happened yet. The spoiler ceaseth. Never ceased. But he ceased now. He hasn't ceased now, but he will. The oppressors are consumed out of the land. There are no oppressors in the land of Moab. It's modern day Jordan. No, the oppressors are still there. As far as I know, the Muslim Brotherhood is still alive and well. Al-Qaeda is still alive and well. Hamas is still alive and well. So see, we go from a fulfillment of a prophecy during the days of Nebuchadnezzar, which was fulfilled, to a future prophecy that has yet to be fulfilled. Now let's look at this. Look at what it talks about. It says that where Isaiah is talking and saying that God says to take counsel. This is now he says, for it shall be as a wandering bird, verse 2, cast out of the nest. So the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. Now they're supposed to take counsel, execute judgment, make their shadow as the night in the midst of noonday, hide the outcast, betray not him that wandereth. Let my outcast dwell with thee, Moab. Let might be a cover to them from the face of the spoiler. In other words, hide them out, hide my outcast, the Lord's outcast. This will literally happen in the future. And what is now modern day Jordan, because Moab, and particularly this place by the river Arnon, at this place where he's talking about, it used to be in the southern part of Moab, in what is now, and spills over into the northern part of what used to be Edom. It is all Jordan now. So where he's talking about is going to happen yet future, where the people of Moab, the daughters of Moab, are going to hide the outcasts. It happens in chapter 12. It says of Revelation, and there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. That's Israel. That's explained in the book of Genesis. We see this perfectly clearly. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there appeared another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And his tail drew a third part of the stars in heaven, and he cast them to the earth. And the dragon stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered, for to devour her child as soon as it was born. Was to kill the Messiah. There was a war in heaven. The war is still going on, but the big battle happened, and a third of the angels sided with Satan, the great rebellion. And she brought forth a man-child who was to rule the nations with a rod of iron. That was Christ. Israel birthed Christ because he's the son of Abraham. He's the son of David. And he's the only one that is ever designated to rule the world, all nations, with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up unto God and in his throne. That's where he sits right now. He ascended into heaven. He is in the throne of God. He sits on the right hand of God, and he's waiting to come back to judge the quick and the dead. And he will sit on the throne of his father David and reign for 1,000 years. And the woman fled into the wilderness, Israel, where she hath a place prepared of God, that they should feed her there 1,260 days, the last 3.5 years of the great tribulation. The wilderness is the wilderness of Moab. Verse 1:16, send ye the lamb to the ruler of the land from Selah to the wilderness, unto the mount of the daughter of Zion, the river. For it shall be as wandering bird cast out of the nest. So the daughters of Moab shall be at the fords of Arnon. So they're not in Israel. They're in the wilderness, this wilderness of the mount. A lot of people think that that's Petra, the place where they're going to hide. You can't see it from the air. There's only one way in and one way out. I don't know, but God will supernaturally feed her there for 3.5 years. The remnant of Israel. They would take care of the outcasts, and that's the remnant of the land. Good morning, Susie, as designated at the end of chapter 15 of Isaiah. And there was more to that war in heaven. It's still going on. It's decided, but it's still going on. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought with his angels and prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. The great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil, and Satan was to deceive the whole world. He was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now has come salvation and strength, the kingdom of our God, and the power of his Christ, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night. And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they loved not their lives unto the death. Therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, for the devil is come down unto you, knowing, having great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time. From the time that God begins to protect the remnant of Israel in the wilderness, supernaturally, Satan has only 3.5 years left. He's crazy, but he believes he can win. And when the dragon saw that he was cast unto the earth, he persecuted the woman which brought forth the man-child. Israel brought forth Jesus. And to the woman were given 2 wings of a great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness. That's where they go. That's where this remnant goes. into the wilderness, verse 1, chapter 16 of Isaiah. Into her place where she is nourished for a time, and times and half a times from the face of the serpent, the devil. And the serpent cast out of his mouth waters of flood after the woman, that he might cause her to be carried away of the flood. Good morning, Danny. Pastor Dr. Danny Decker. God bless you. And the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened her mouth, and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out. And then here we deal with the remnant. The dragon was wroth with the woman, the remnant, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus Christ. He says, at the fords of Moab, on the other side of Arnon, Isaiah chapter 16, verse 3, take counsel, execute judgment, make thy shadow as the night in the midst of the noonday. Hide the outcast, bewray not him that wandereth. Let mine outcast dwell with thee in Moab, which is modern Jordan, which is where they will be for the last half of the Great Tribulation. Bank on it, baby. It's going to happen. For the extraordinary, be thou covered to them from the face of the spoiler. For the extortioner is at an end. The devil's at an end. He's going to see it. The spoiler sees it. He's going to see it. And the oppressors are consumed out of the land. And in mercy shall the throne be established. What throne? Do I have to tell you? And he shall set upon it. Who shall set upon it? The Lord, the Messiah, the King, Yeshua, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus, the Son of God. He shall set upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David. Well, ain't no tabernacle right now, and this hasn't happened yet, so there's going to be one. Of course, we know that the temple will be rebuilt either before or during the first half of the Great Tribulation, because the beast will set himself up there so he can be worshipped as God. He shall set upon it in the truth, in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment and hasting righteousness. That's a picture of the rapture. James talks about this at the Council of Jerusalem, and he actually quotes, is it Amos? I think it's Amos. In Acts chapter 15. James is going to quote, is it Amos? I think it is. Yes. Amos chapter 9, beginning in verse 11. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David. Well, that's what's going on in this prophecy of Isaiah. He shall sit upon the throne in truth in the tabernacle of David. Oh, excuse me. This book is absolutely symmetrical. Everything it says is true. Everything it prophesies came true. The stuff it prophesies that hadn't come true is just because it hadn't come true yet. And we are awaiting the soon fulfillment of those prophecies. Verse 11, chapter 9 of the book of Amos. In that day will I raise up the tabernacle of David that is fallen, and close up the breaches thereof. And I will raise up his ruins, and I will build it as in the days of old. And that's never happened, and that's not going to happen until. That they may possess the remnant of Edom. Remember, under David, Edom paid tribute to David in Jerusalem. And of all the heathen, which are called by my name, saith the Lord that doeth this. Not the Jews only, but also the Greeks. all the heathen, everyone he calls, because he's calling out a people for his name right now. The Apostle James, the half-brother of Jesus, not the brother of John, the son of Zebedee, but James, the half-brother of Jesus, says in the Council at Jerusalem, chapter 15, Acts, verse 13, and after they held their peace, James answered and said, Men and brethren, hearken unto me. Simeon, or Peter, Simon, hath declared how God at the first did visit the Gentiles to take out of them a people for his name. And to this agree the words of the prophets, as it is written, And after this I will return, and will build again the tabernacle of David, which is fallen down, and I will build again the ruins thereof, and I will set it up, that the residue of men might seek after God, seek after the Lord. That's during the kingdom age. And all the Gentiles upon whom my name is called, the Jews that are saved, and the Gentiles that are saved, saith the Lord, who doeth all these things, and known unto the Lord are all his works from the beginning of the world. Now I would take you to Romans chapter 11 and explain this just a little more in detail. I think I have time. Let's just do that very quickly, and then we will give up because I got to go to church here in a minute. Romans 11. I said, verse 25, for I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery. Paul is writing to Christians at Rome, not to Jews. The church at Rome was almost entirely Gentile or Greek or, other than Jew, barbarian. That church was non-Jewish. Paul is writing to them. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits. That blindness in part has happened to the Gentiles. I can't read this morning. Help me, Lord. For I would not, brethren, I know this by memory. I don't know why I'm looking at it. I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits. That blindness in part has happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. And then we find out why here. And so, and I've quoted this to you many times, and so all Israel shall be saved. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away the ungodliness from Jacob. And this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins. Now, as I've explained, especially when we studied the entire book of the prophet Zechariah. Good morning, Pastor Haroon, Pastor Susie, Pastor Decker, all of you guys. As I explained when we did the book of Zechariah and explained now and then again, when it says all Israel should be saved, he's talking about that remnant that I spoke of that is going to be supernaturally protected at the time of the return of Jesus, and that they're going to go into the kingdom where Jesus is going to sit in truth upon the throne in the tabernacle of David his father. It's not that all the Jews who ever lived will be saved. It's that all those Jews, several million Jews, the remnant of the Jews who are alive that Jesus is coming and being hidden supernaturally in the wilderness by God from the beast, from the Antichrist who is trying to destroy them, they will all at once see Jesus as he is. His garments will be covered in blood from the battle of Armageddon. He will have completely destroyed all the armies of the Antichrist that are gathered against Christ at his return, trying to prevent his return. And then they will realize that what they thought was the illegitimate son of the carpenter is the Son of God, is their Messiah, is Joshua, is Jesus. And he gives them another opportunity to be delivered. And those Jews of the remnant are alive. Every one of them will ask him, what are these wounds in your hands and what are these wounds in your feet? And he's going to say, these are the wounds with which I was wounded in the house of my friends. And they will come to him, and he will be their God, and they shall be their people. They shall be his people, and they will enter into the kingdom in their mortal flesh, just like the tribulation saints who survived until the end, who trusted Christ. And that's what it means when it says all Israel shall be saved. And that's what it's talking about. You see, nobody gets saved except by faith in Jesus Christ. Except their faith is going to see him by seeing him after the resurrection, after the Battle of Armageddon. And they're going to come to him then and worship him as God and King and believe him as Messiah. So that's what it's talking about here. This is a far-flung prophecy. It will happen at the very end of the Great Tribulation. And in mercy shall the throne be established. And he shall sit upon it in truth in the tabernacle of David, judging and seeking judgment and hasting righteousness. God bless you. Have a great day at church.